New additions and layout update. Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Introducing the 91 set. Yes, you've seen the DVT and all the coaches. I'll explain that red one in a minute. But there is a class 91 on the back. And although this is new to the channel, I've had this model for about 6 months waiting for its train. So there is my class 91, which is 91031. Now, you may remember I bought this coach from Rails of Sheffield a couple of weeks ago now on my visit there, and I was going to put it into the Mark IV set behind. Now the reason for that is because I can't find a Mark IV buffet car in swallow livery, and so I thought I've got to try and do something different. So I ummed and ahed. I had this Mark III, and I also had a white East Coast liveried Mark IV buffet. Now that's a Mark IV buffet, but that's not an East Coast one. And I decided that I'll go with this one because I thought it would work quite well. Now, the Mark IVs, I've got a kinematic coupling. Now, excuse my finger, but it will hopefully it'll explain it more. You've got a centralising coupling, which then goes off to the left or off to the right. And you've got this V shape there, all pulled back with a spring at the bottom. Now, on this one, if I take you across and put it in the cradle, now I have modified this since, but the coupling was attached directly to the bogie. So you can see it would have had a direct pivot like that, and the pivot being the central part of the bogie itself. Now I fitted my own magnetic coupling, which has got a much narrower swing, but it is more in keeping with the kinematics, and I've had them successfully work. However, when I connected it to this slot, it wasn't going to have it, and it continually kept derailing. Now, I went back onto Rails of Sheffield's site, hoping that I would find that East Coast coach, and it had gone. Somebody had already bought it. Now, I left it on the counter where the till is, and I'm guessing somebody saw it and just said, I'll have that. Now, there might have been another one in the dark blue livery, but this was the only one with anything like white on it. I'm talking like grey there. So eventually this will get painted up in those colours just there, and then it will blend in better. I mean, there is a possibility that Hornby might release the new coach in the latest batch. The announcement's next Tuesday, 14th, I think that's Tuesday, Wednesday. So the announcements will come then. So there is a possibility they'll re-release it, and if they do, I'll buy that and use this elsewhere. But you know, I'm really happy with it. Now, many people have commented in the past on a couple of videos about a locomotive pushing. Now you'll see this running at very high speed, and the 91 is at the back, and the DVT, it's just an unpowered vehicle. It's got pickups, but it's unpowered. So there we go. Let's move on. Now, I love this train. With a full Mark IV set, it looks absolutely fantastic and runs beautifully. But it does come with a problem. It doesn't fit on the traverser. It's about 3 centimetres too long. So what am I going to do about it? Right, so to combat this issue, I've come up with this contraption, and that lifts up just like that. So the buffer, with a hole in here obviously, and probably glued down, will sit on there like that. So this is a representation of the traverser board, and it is thicker than the normal board. This is 15mm, the actual board is 12. So if I put the buffer on there like that, I know it's upside down, but then you can get the idea. That will come up, and the sponge will probably just overhang the board, probably by about 1 mil or 2. So when the 91 comes down, it can quite happily bash into that and won't do any damage whatsoever. Right, so there it is in place, and this piece here is a test. I am going to make a frame which is considerably taller than that, and that will be glued and screwed to this board here, so that will then be a lot more stable. That does tend to lift up in the hole, as I've drilled just there, and I've left quite a lot of foam into the track there, so that if a train hit it, that would come up like that. But the frame, it's dropped on the floor down there, once that's made, that will make that area a lot more rigid. I feel I can hold this much more stable. And there it is. You can see the buffer is set far behind the others, and holding on to it, it just flips out the way. And then if I want to remove the 91 and replace it with the 89, I can, and then the locomotive will enter the mini traverser. Right, a couple of things to show you here. The big obvious one is that I have removed this section here. Now, I did talk about it quite a while ago, to be honest, and I'd accidentally glued it together, and you know, I glued those blocks to the part coming in, the section in the middle, I mean. And obviously it's much better to have the lift out section like what I've done at that end over there. Second thing as well is that you probably have realised I put in another track just down there, and that goes around the outside down to the sidings, which I've also put in. I don't know whether you can see them like that. So there's 3 sidings there. It's obviously the big one where the APT is, but there's a little one where the 108 is, and that fits nicely, and there's a longer one which I did have for the 158, but obviously that's no more, so I will be finding something else to go into that space. Right, just bringing you to this far end of the layout now. So I've got, I'm on the ramp at the far end, and this was the track dedicated to the APT. Now, when I first put it in a couple of weeks ago, I had it a lot closer and probably more parallel, to be honest. But what I was finding is that, one, trains were catching the APT as they went past. I thought, that's no good. But also, once I moved this track out, and that was easy to do, you can see I just put a straight piece in here, and that was sufficient to take the track out and give it clearance. I was very close to the edge of the board going round there. So what I've decided to do is make these 3D printed sections, which go underneath and screw up. There's one printing right here, you probably hear it, and as the print head goes back, hopefully you'll get to see it. But these are screw holes at the end here, and you can see there is a shoulder. Now this is a special one for this area here, but generally speaking there is a shoulder here which acts as like a stop, so I've got a 30mm gap constantly all the way round. And then I've put 4mm, 2 layers of 2mm grey board underneath there. So that is grey board. And I've glued it on with PVA. And yes, it is still wet. It does look a mess. That's the way life is. And then this piece here is 1mm board going around the back. And I've hot glued that on with the hot glue gun. So I'm just going to get this piece glued on. Once this piece to my right is completed, finished printing, that's going to go just here. And then I can get the wall going around a little bit further. So there it is, done. But as you remember me saying in a previous video, storage is a big issue, and I've got all this space underneath here which I could potentially use. Now, you might have remembered I had the traverser on the first iteration of the 00 gauge layout when it was a 9-foot long layout, and I had 5 or 6 tracks on a board. And you know, I've still got it, and I've shown it a couple of times on the videos. So my idea would be to set it up in here. Now, how? Well, I've got this old table here, which is past its best by any means, and I've screwed some kitchen cabinet leg sockets on there, and there are height adjustable feet that will go into those. And then you will also notice I've put some 3D printed brackets on the bottom, so that will literally just sit on the top. So yes, this table is a bit tall and will need to be cut down probably to about there. I don't know at the moment, I'm going to have to check. But with the height adjustable feet in there, and then I can upturn that table and just slot it in. There we go. So that's the traverser, or traverser number 2, as I'm going to call it. So there are 6 tracks. It's quite difficult to film actually. But there's 6 tracks and space for effectively 12 locomotives of a reasonable length. Obviously got Caroline in there at the moment with the 37, but that is going to be absolutely fantastic. And as you can see, it goes out through there and just joins onto the ramp. Now, if I want a locomotive at the back, all I can do is just take one out and either take it up there if the train I want goes back down, or vice versa. So I can move one locomotive out the way. And you know, this sort of thing is brings just as much play value as seeing trains running around on the top, you know. And I do love to sort of sit and watch the trains running around. It's like watching fish. You know, I just find it so relaxing just watching the trains move around all by themselves. But there are times when I want to do something, and that's where the big traverser and all these sidings down here, and having an 08, that's just at the end there at the moment, it's just over there. But the 08 will shuffle around all these wagons and all sorts of bits and bobs like that. Anyway, let's move on. So next up is this thing here. You might be thinking, well, what's that? Well, it's a stop. Now, it's not necessarily anything to do with the layout or running the layout. It's more to do with kind of protecting the layout, if you like. Many of you realise I have the settee here. And every time I sat down, I was nudging it back 5mm, 10mm, 20mm. And then eventually I'm catching the traverser, which is then knocking it out of level. So I needed something just so that the settee can sort of rest against something without causing any issues. And there's another bit just underneath that top board there. The settee just slides under that top board. So that stop there will really help it to stay sort of level, if you like. Now, this black stuff on the front is an old car mat, which I don't need anymore. So I've just cut that up and stuck that on the front. The rest of it is a bit messy. It is just scraps, which I've just kept hold of, and it's just perfect for that sort of thing. So it should make a huge difference to the way the room is sort of working, if you like. Okay, next. Right, well, as I've just mentioned this, I thought I might as well mention this area as well. Now, I put this in fairly early on because I needed train storage, and as you can see, the traverser is not going to house all the trains that I have. So as I said before, I've created storage over there, and there is the APT storage going around the back, as I mentioned earlier in the video. And this is for particular trains. Now, you will realise that I've extended this little bit here by probably, I don't know, 100mm or so. And that is so I can get in the flirts. Now, I've only got one at the moment, but the plan is to get at least another one. And by doing that, I can have one running to the station, which I'll explain shortly, and then one running back, and maybe even have the 2 running on the top at the same time. So this is now a perfect length for the flirts, a 3-car that is, not a 4-car. And then I can put in any, I might put these wagons maybe in there or somewhere else, I don't know. So this is a bumper episode, isn't it? Now, I did mention a station in one of the just previous clips, and you'll also recognise that I bought that point from the Rails of Sheffield visit. Now, the idea of that was to put that kind of like that there, and then this track would go off to a station like that. But looking at the geometry of it, it was sending the track over there, really, when I wanted the track more where it is. So I found my last, I might add, long radius right-hand point, and I thought I'll give it a go. And it does work very, very well. So that now is going to be a station for the flirts coming in. Okay, now also this area here, as I've said before, with a little bit of jiggery pokery from the beams there, will be like a dock type area or a river. Now, you may remember a long time ago I bought, I think it's a Golden Hind, a model of the galleon, the Golden Hind, I think, and that will go somewhere in this area here, maybe there, I'm not sure. So that will be higher. Now, the idea would be that these tracks are hidden because there'll be some buildings here, and then I'll create like a tunnel effect going through, so it gives the impression that it goes out towards an estuary and maybe a bridge going through just underneath there. Now, you'll also notice I've made a 3D printed a bridge. It's by no means finished, and it does come out. This track is screwed down, as you can see there, but the track will lift up just sufficient for me to be able to get this bridge in and out as I need to. I do need to clad it and then paint it up, and there's going to be some girders across the top. This bridge will be very, very loosely based on Trent Bridge near Newark. Now, I know the structure underneath is nothing like, and that is nothing like. However, I needed to do something fairly strong to bridge this gap, and I wanted to be able to create that now before going too much further in the layout, so that the train will come in and the train will stop around about here. So it will stop on the girder, and the platform will come up probably to about here. So that part will remain open, and I'll rust it all up and make it look quite dilapidated. And then there's these two arch girders over the sides like that, which would look quite nice, I think. So that's basically the idea. So one of the flirt trains, i.e. one of these, will come up, go rounds maybe once or twice, come in on the middle line where the 08 is, and then come all the way up here, and it can go out on the middle line back to the opposite line. So then it would come round here like that, and then cross over, and then back down to the Fiddle yard down that line just there again. So it's one step closer to getting more realistic, if you like. We're nowhere close at the moment, obviously, but you know. And then when the upper level comes in, the track will come over here. I'm not sure whether it's going to go over there first and then back in again. That might be quite nice, actually, for the train to come in as a bridge. But there'll be an upper level station in this area here, so you can still see the train down below, but then it would be nice having something like Rocket or Lion coming across and then double back with another train there, so that'll be shuttling back and forth. And finally, you can see that I have now fitted some more strip lighting at this end of the layout, where I'm going to call this one Traverser 2 and that one Traverser 1, and the little one at the end will be Mini Traverser. Otherwise it will be Bob, Sid and Harry. So there we are then. There's been absolutely loads done over the last couple of weeks, but to be honest, it doesn't feel like that. I've only done it bit by bit by bit by bit, and you know, it's amazing. All those little bits soon add up, don't they? Well, as the 803 and the 91 set are going around the layout, we've suddenly got this sort of East Coast feel now, as opposed to what it was even just a few days ago. So really, really pleased about that. And but I do think I'm going to leave the video just there. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly Eastway. Got some competition. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.